What's up, guys? Aaron Smith here with eXp Realty, and we're doing a Meet the Team. And the first person that I want you to meet is Sabrina Roberts. Sabrina's been with our team for a few months now, and I'm just going to tell you, I'm thoroughly impressed because every now and then you meet somebody who just gets it. So we're going to talk to Sabrina today. We're going to let her share some experiences and show you guys why she's such a real estate badass. Okay, so first and foremost, just like a lot of agents, when you enter the real estate business, you tend to work with a lot of buyers first. So when you show up with a client at a showing, what do you do at the showing, basically?
So the first thing that I do at the showing is if I don't know the client yet, I typically just get to know them, get to know their background, the reason for their move, the reason for their search. So if they're listing a house, buying a house same time, what's the reason for that? So just kind of get to know them, and that helps me decide whether that house is right for them in the first place and where our search may go next. So just getting to build that rapport is my main goal, and then showing the house. And then once they're looking around at things throughout the house, I usually head down to the utilities, check out all those things that buyers don't typically look for in a house. They're looking at how many bedrooms it has for their kids and how many bathrooms it has, what does the backyard look like for their dog, where I'm looking at foundation, HVAC, water heater.
You're spotting things that they don't normally encounter on a daily basis. They're looking at bedrooms, bathrooms, and all the stuff that, can my family live here? And you go try to find out, you go investigate and see if there's something there that isn't normal, kind of thing.
Right. So can their family live there? My job is your family safe here?
So when you're doing the showing, do you bring these things up before they tell you if they like the house, or what's the purpose? You go out there and you find that, hey, the furnace is older, water heater's older, or the water heater's leaking, or it looks like there's termite damage. Do you try to bring that up before they like the house, or how do you bring that up?
Well, I like to hear their feedback. So no,
See if they even like it first.
Yeah, because in a house, as long as the foundation isn't crumbling in, there are things that can be fixed. So in order HVAC, maybe the husband works in the HVAC or the wife works in the HVAC system.
Or maybe they're throwing it, they're willing to offer a new HVAC system.
Yeah, so things can be fixed. So if they love the house, they love the house. But my job as a buyer's agent is to provide information.
Yeah.
So what they do with that information is their choice.
Absolutely. So I feel like every agent has a style. We know a lot of agents, they pull up to a showing, or they're driving a certain car, or they're wearing a certain outfit or something like that. What would you say your style is when you show up and meet a client?
I would say that my style is comfortable. So if I'm comfortable, the client's comfortable.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to crawl down into those crawl spaces and down into the cellar. Sometimes we have to go around the house and through the cellar to get to the HVAC system and check out the real foundation and things like that. And it's very hard to crawl down in there in some 6-inch heels.
Do you remember the client, you texted me and you said, hey, somebody locked the key in the house, and we had there was another agent there, and I don't know what this guy was wearing, but you said, hey, I crawled through the window, or I crawled through and then got into this house to open it up. The other agent just looked at me like, I'm not doing that. So when you're working with Sabrina, she doesn't pull any punches, right? So, you're going to do everything you can. You're not this high heel stiletto realtor.
No.
You get in there, you get your hands dirty because that's what the client deserves.
Right. Yep. He wasn't willing to crawl through that window, but
once a house goes under contract, what can I expect as a buyer?
So as a buyer, my job is to make sure you are well informed the entire time. So typically, once we go under contract, once we get the inspection complete and those timelines are met, it's kind of a quiet period. And sometimes clients are left with what's happening behind the scenes. And so it's my job to make sure I'm proactive in letting you know what's happening. Underwriters doing their thing, appraisals are taking place, lending is taking place, paperwork is taking place, and all of that stuff we don't typically we're not hands-on with that. But still, the buyer's like, what's going on. And
Well,
so
there's a lot of anxiety there too.
Yeah.
You know, buyers are thinking, okay, we just negotiated all these repairs on the house, and my lender's asking for 1,000 documents, and I have to resubmit all these things, and blood samples and hair samples and everything else. And then, you know, they're always wondering, am I doing everything I need to be doing, right? So what you do really well is you make sure that you inform the client, like, hey, here's where we are right now, and in the next week, here's what's going to be happening, because, you know, there are some concerns and curiosities out there. They don't know what they don't know.
right,
So
especially for a first-time home buyer. I mean, they have never done this before.
right.
So.
Well, and you know, you got to think with the age of the internet, where is everybody getting their information these days? It's either aunt or uncle or mom or dad or Google. And real estate is a very regional thing. And what mom or dad or aunt or uncle in Wisconsin did with their real estate transaction may not be normal here in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. So we always try to educate them, and you do a very good job of that. You stay in touch way better than me probably. You're very diligent in making sure that all the boxes get checked and the clients are well informed. What about the home inspection? Let's talk about that for a second, because there's a lot of anxiety around that too, right? We want it to be perfect, right? So how do you have that conversation with buyers about the home inspection?
So the biggest thing that I've learned already so far, especially with out-of-town buyers, I've had to be at the home inspection quite often on behalf of my buyers. So building that relationship with our inspectors, especially the ones that we use a lot. So just learning from them and understanding what they're going to be looking for. And honestly, when we do our showings, that's something I'll say, you know, an inspector's going to point this out. You know, maybe it's a window seal that's broken and the glass is kind of foggy. They're going to point that out. Is it a concern? Not really, you know. So just knowing and educating the buyer of what's a main concern, what's not a main concern, what's a make or break for the house.
Would you say that's one of the main reasons why you are so thorough during the showing, is so that they don't hit any surprises during the home inspection?
Yes, for sure.
Because that's the
Yeah.
last thing you want. Like, I always reference it like, you know, you just fell in love with this house and you're about to marry it for a period of time. And then you're going to hire somebody to come point out every flaw on the thing.
And they will.
and you know, it's easier to go into the home inspection period a little softer without a bunch of surprises coming at you. So if the inspector says, hey, the seal on this window is broken, they're like, oh yeah, Sabrina pointed that out to me, thank you, you know, that sort of thing. And they're not wigged out by it, right?
Right, yep.
What are some things, like if you said, if something come up in a home inspection that was a big deal, what are those big deals? Like what's something that stops you right in your tracks on a home inspection?
Well, I mean, sometimes it can be electrical. I mean, if you have a bunch of knob and tube that's exposed, that's a big deal and needs to be remediated. But foundation issues, major cracks, major things, and a lot of those we look for, but I mean, there's some things that you can't see. Maybe there's something on the roof that, I mean, I'll crawl through a window, but I don't think I'm gonna go onto a roof.
We won't get on your roof during your showing. It's probably not advised. So, yeah, we leave that part to the home inspectors.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you go to home inspections for out-of-town clients sometimes. How do you deal with a client who lives in a different area and they want to see this house, but they can't get here fast enough? Like, how do you handle those clients?
Well, I've had clients like that quite a bit actually, which I don't know how common that is for a newer agent, but I mean, it's kind of been
It comes in waves, right?
It's kind of been my norm, and I've gotten some pretty good feedback on that. But the showing on video is the same way that it would look as if they were in person. I'm still pointing out everything. I'm gonna zoom in, I'm gonna point out and say what I think and say what I see and every aspect of the home. So I've done it through FaceTime, I've done it through YouTube video, I've snapped pictures and sent those along. I went back after rainfall to double check for any kind of water intrusion that could happen.
Here, so there's certain things, I'm hearing stuff here for the first time. So I didn't know that Sabrina went back to a house after it rained to check on the house for the buyer. So when I say she's a real estate badass, this is why I keep getting surprised every single day on things that Sabrina's doing for her clients that I didn't even know about. So when you hire our team, and Sabrina mainly, this is the kind of stuff that you're gonna get whether you're in town or out of town. Most teachable moment, let's talk about that.
Especially being a new agent, I've learned a lot from you, but I've learned a lot from agents that I've had to partner with.
Right.
Good, bad, and all in between.
Right.
So learning from all of those experiences, and I think just being as observant as I can be and taking what other people do and don't do, and using that to my advantage. So listing agent listing this house and they're not showing the seller exactly what their net is going to be, that comes around to bite at the end, and that happened once. So that's something that, you know, I take and I put it in my mind, and that's definitely, I mean, not that I wouldn't cover it in the first place, but that's definitely something that's always going to ring in my head. So
right. So to go a little bit more in depth there, Sabrina and I had closing coming up. We're approaching closing day, and I think it was closing day. And the title company finally sent the closing statement to the buyer and the seller. We represented the buyer, who was out of town, and then we get a call from the title company and said that the seller's not going to be closing today. Long story short, the seller wasn't receiving as much money out of their closing as they thought they were going to buy their next house. So in order to eliminate those problems for our team, when we represent a seller, when we're pricing the house, we like to go through seller proceeds. Here's what, if we sold your house for this amount, minus any broker fees, county transfer tax, and that sort of thing, this is about the amount of money that you're going to receive at closing. And we're usually, as long as the seller's payoff amount is close, we're usually within $100 of that. I like to get it like super close. I like to play a game, like how close can I get to what the actual number is going to be. But we do those sorts of things so that imagine if that were our seller, sitting at the closing table, they're about to sell one house and buy another, and they look down and it's not enough money. Like, we don't want to put our clients in a situation where they feel that way. And if we do, we're not the best, and that's not acceptable. So
yeah, because in that situation, it was a couple $1,000s. So
yeah, they were
that's a big
quite a
deal.
bit short. And I wouldn't wish that on any of our clients. So let's see here. Here's a question we get a lot. Do home buyers need 20% down?
Depends.
Okay. All right. So let's unpack
So
that.
it depends. So if you're an investor looking for a home, maybe you're going to flip it, maybe you're going to rent it, you're not going to live there, basically.
Yep.
Then yes, you typically need your 20% down for that. Conventional, usually it's 5% down, but sometimes it can go as low as 3.5. And then FHA, you're looking at 3.5% down. But if you're USDA area, it could be 0%. VA loans, 0%.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they want to put down 20% on a house to avoid PMI, right? So that mortgage insurance that you have to pay every month, and that's why they put down that money on PMI. But if you do the math, sometimes putting down 5% at getting a lower interest rate, putting down 5%, you can take the additional 15% and invest it somewhere, and you're making more money than you're paying in PMI. So it makes more sense to put down 5%, keep your cash handy, and invest it in something. You mentioned VA, USDA, FHA, those are all sub 20% down options. And then conventional, you can put down as much as you want to. What's the market look like right now? Things have changed a little bit, so I guess describe in your words what we're looking at as a market.
So backtrack a little bit. When I first started as a buyer's agent, I mean, I think I've seen it all. Like, I kind of started at the perfect time. So we went from squealing tires 5 minutes after the house hits the market to get there, to write an offer within 30 minutes, to hope that it gets accepted. You know, so we went from crazy with buyers needing houses, low inventory, low interest rates. So everybody's like, I like the analogy that you use with the fishbowl and all these fish, and you drop one piece of food. So that's kind of where we were, and that's when I first started, which I was glad because it gave me so many tools in my belt. Like, it gave me so many experiences and so many different things to be able to use. So now I get to slow that down a little bit. So buyers are kind of slowing down a little bit. You may have, you know, a day or two to think about a house, think about an offer, think about a good offer. You're not having as many multiple offer situations. Interest rates are going up. The inventory is still getting better, but not as good, but it's still getting better. So, you know, the seller is gonna have not lower prices on houses, but they're starting to level off on the prices. So
Yeah, they're probably gonna have to make some adjustments. Inventory's still low. and interest rates are up, so buyers are being pickier now. If they're gonna have to make a higher mortgage payment for the same price house, they're gonna try to get what they want. And certain sellers are gonna say, well, my neighbor sold their house for $350,000, and it's like, yeah, but that's when buyers' payments were $500 cheaper.
Yeah.
So, if you're gonna put the house out there, sellers might have to adjust a little bit. But it's still a great time to sell because there's hardly anything out there right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So, just to, we'll get in the personal world here, right? We know that you're willing to do everything it takes, crawl into crawl spaces and, through windows and stuff. What do you do when you're not selling real estate?
Well, I have 2 boys, so spend a lot of time with them. They've gotten into dirt biking, and so we've been doing a lot of that this summer. They travel for basketball, so we like to do that. But the funny thing is that, as much as I am a family person, I do like to work a lot. So even when I'm sitting on the beach, if my phone rings, I'm going to answer it most of the time, or I'm going to call you right back. So those are some of the things that you can still expect to see. Not that I put family on hold, but I still like to be, balanced. I still like to be available and ready. So so there's that aspect. But yeah, we do have a lot of fun. We like to go camping, hiking.
How many miles have you put on your motorcycle so far?
Oh, well, I still have to practice those turns.
I gotcha.
So we're still at about, maybe 30 miles. So,
really?
Yeah.
All right.
Not crazy.
Lots of practice on the motorcycle coming.
Yeah.
So if she shows up to a showing driving a motorcycle, you're welcome. You just got to meet Sabrina Roberts. She's on the Aaron Smith team here at eXp Realty. You'll probably see a lot more of her in the months to come because she's a real estate badass, and you're really going to enjoy working with her. Thanks for watching.